Welcome back to Straight Facts on Wednesday. Very sorry for the delay. Mo said he was stuck in traffic and he'd be here at about 4:15. We waited as long as we could, Hassan, but we had to start without that fraud.
Yeah, it's people in the chat will probably think it was my fault. What's the saying about like the thing that ate the wolf ate it? What's the English saying?
Oh, the boy who cried wolf.
It's why do I always say the devil that cried wolf?
Yeah, it's the boy that cried wolf, but yeah.
The boy that cried wolf. You get me? The boy that cried wolf, because I'm always late and I understand. But listen, this is old school straight facts. Hussam, ex-Terry, until Mo joins and downgrades the show. So make sure you guys are liking the video. Make sure you guys are subscribing. And we're out here. Let's go. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got loads to talk about today as we're looking at Mo Salah as he confirmed his exit from Liverpool with the statement he made last night. We're going to be asking how fuming are Arsenal fans with what was said yesterday. Seems to be a big discourse online around sacking the manager, not happy with his statement. We're going to get the panel's opinion, but your opinion as well. Will Man United win tonight? And should young Obi start the game? Some United fans are calling for that. And we're also going to have a debate. Is this the worst Premier League season ever? It would help if I spelled season in the title, right? But that's now updated. Is this the worst Premier League season ever? There's a lot of conversations and a lot of discussions about that potentially being the case online as well. But before we went live, you said something about Man United, but I didn't hear what you said because I pressed the music in the intro just as you said it.
Thing is with the Man United, you know, I was just looking at the current situation that you're in, and there's something that Mo's been talking about all year. I wish he was here actually to have this like bottom feeder conversation with your bottom feeder club. Sorry, I can't relate. I'm like, hey. Thing is with Mo, I wish he was here to have this conversation. But the more I think of what Mo's saying, the more I go like, okay, Mo is a fraud, and he does yoga stretch statements. And he does try to irritate people, but he did make a valid point in this scenario, which is Man United losing now has become less and less and less and less news. It's like even me, like someone who does like a bit more generic content, it's not just all Liverpool, Liverpool, Liverpool all the time. Like even when we were talking last Sunday, like in our panel shows and stuff, we spoke about Arsenal losing to West Ham because that was news. We spoke about Chelsea losing to Aston Villa because that was news. We spoke about the Liverpool game against Manchester City, still relevant news, of course, because we're top of the league. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so Everton drew 2-2 with Manchester United. As things stand, given the context of where Man United are, that's low-key not even a bad result for them.
No,
like, that's
not.
actually, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I swear I'm not even trying to like be condescending or anything. I'm being dead serious. I was like, okay, like Everton have drawn with Arsenal, they've drawn with Liverpool. They've been like a thorn in the big club sides this season a little bit. Maybe a draw against Everton ain't the worst in the world for Man United. And I was just thinking about it, and you know, this always comes back to the standards conversation. And I feel like in order to get to the standard that people want you to be at, you need to build up that standard. And I was thinking about, like, let's say, okay, all United fans tomorrow are Amarim out. Every single United fan in the planet. You, Staffy, KJ, every human on the planet who supports Man United is Amarim out. Does it change anything for the immediate short-term future for Manchester United or long-term future? The only thing that I was thinking of, okay, maybe if they get in someone who makes like a short-term difference, maybe in these next like two months of the season. But then you must ask yourself at the same time, so let's say they're currently, what, 15th? If they finish 8th, 7th, does that make a difference really to their season? No, it doesn't. So like, I was just wondering what your thoughts are currently on your club as well, because it's very important to hear your thoughts.
You know me. Me and Standards FC have a very interesting relationship. And I'm talking about the way they view football, because I hold many of the same standards. The difference between them and I is simple. They think they can go from being a 20-stone, overweight, unfit man who hasn't been to the gym in 10 years, and they can go and get themselves a body like, who's got a good body as a man? No Diddy. I don't know. Ryan Reynolds. You can make yourself look like Ryan Reynolds once you've been in the gym 3 or 4 weeks. That's the difference between me and Standards FC. I understand that actually some people, depending on their age and how long they've been overweight, they may never have a body that looks that way or feels that way because they might have done too much damage to it. The skin might be too loose, and that's a bit, but you get my point. equally, if you're like me, we got a little bit of a belly, I could probably get myself into a certain shape with enough dedication, hard work, and a really good diet. I could probably get myself into, again, I would never look like Ryan Reynolds in the face. He's a very good looking man, but in terms of the physique I'm talking. So the difference is you can have the standards to get to that level. The difference between me and Standards FC is that I think I've got a more realistic grasp of reality around how long it takes to get there. And also, it doesn't matter how high the standards at Luton Town are. They're never going to do what Manchester City did unless they get an owner with the money that Manchester City have got. It's just those two things happen. And I think it's important to premise your question with that to begin with. Because for me, I didn't think the draw away at Everton was that bad. One, with how they're playing. Two, with the form they're in. Three, the fact we went 2-0 down and came back. But none of that was discussed because everybody wanted to focus on the penalty that's not been a penalty all year to any team, needing to be a penalty because it was conceded by Man United. And I've been very frustrated with the media coverage about that penalty. The word fleeting Paul has not been mentioned all year, but for other versions it has. I was watching the games last night and games on Sunday. So many little pulls and shirt pulls and tugs in the box. None of them were given as penalties. I haven't seen a single bit of media coverage about them, but that dominated. And yeah, I was really happy with the response by Man United in that second half. Still loads of holes and flaws, but I think we have to lower our immediate expectations versus where we want to get to. And there's talk tonight of, Ipswich, we should be, I don't care how bad we've been, we should be winning tonight still. So
yes.
We're not playing Newcastle.
It's like the Chelsea-Southampton example, basically.
We should still be winning this game tonight. But then there are other questions, and this shows where we are. A lot of United fans are debating whether or not young Chido Obi should be starting the game, who is a 17-year-old with about 25 minutes of first-team experience. He looked very nervous when he came on against Everton. And I sort of look at it and go, well, that's where we are. We're at a point where I look at this situation, I think to myself, how can somebody watch our games and go, I demand the Fergie level performance today from a team where we're debating having to start
Never gonna happen.
with no experience? It's just you're creating an expectation that you're always going to feel disappointed of towards the end. So I agree. Man United is going to be a lot. Is going to take a long time to fix on a permanent level. Sometimes
the thing is, I feel like for a modern day manager, and I'm not even making this about Liverpool, I'm actually giving a genuine example. I think for a modern day manager to fix a football club without an unlimited budget, we can all agree the best example is probably Jurgen Klopp. Comes in, immediate term, you see a little bit of improvement, but then you see the long-term vision, you see the style, you see stuff like this. And I feel like with Liverpool, we had like step-by-step progress under Jurgen Klopp, where it's like, okay, we finished top four in Champions League final, win the Champions League, win the Premier League. And I feel like people need to understand progress and process happen at the same time. You can have a progress and the process together, but you just need to start seeing results of the process. And not necessarily everything in the short term in terms of results, but in terms of a style. Is Amorim currently implementing a style? Yes. Is he implementing a standard, the basic standard of football that any player who comes to Man United knows, I'm going to play this style, this way, etc.? Yes. So far, his style has resulted in, I think it was 4 wins or 5 wins and 13. I'm unsure, like in terms of, I think, Premier League football. I think he has like 5 wins and 13, 4 wins and 13, whatever it is. So if that continued in the long term, let's say this is December 2025, and, in December 2025, Man United start off the season, you've got half a season to go off as sample size, and you're again like 4 wins and 13, 4 wins and 14. That's when I think it would be okay to go like, okay, Amorim's football, the way that he wants to play, does not translate well to Manchester United, does not translate well to the Premier League, and it's time to part ways. And I understand if people want managers gone after a short period of time, if they're disappointed. Like, I understand that. I'm not even policing if people want to be Amorim out now. I'm just saying you have to at least give the guy time to implement his tactics and his style with even the current, like, best players not even available. Who's Man United's best player this whole season? Amad Diallo. With all due respect to all Man United players, I think personally, performance-wise, probably the best one has been Amad Diallo. He's not even fit right now. He's not even available right now.
No,
how can I judge Amorim?
I agree, and I didn't think he started very well under Amorim. But then you saw Lisandro Martinez becoming an integral member of the team, scoring 2 goals. He started to really flourish. He does his knee. So we've lost two of our most influential players. Mainu, who we need in that midfield, also gets out and gets injured. We haven't even seen Mount, and I'm not defending the Mount signing, but I think Mount is a player that Amorim's system really needs, someone that can press and push and has got that energy. Been out injured. I'm a bit like you. I'm not going to gatekeep whether or not people think you're allowed to think he should be sacked at this point or he isn't going to be good enough. All I'm asking for is that people are a little bit more open-minded about this than I see in other debates. We were having this conversation on Straight Facts yesterday about, Dan Potts asked me the question as to whether or not I would, if I was in charge, would I sack Arteta at the end of the season? And I think that Arsenal fans, I've said it for a while now, have got to drop this Arteta in, Arteta out debate that stems back to 2019, because I think both have got so much wrong that neither can claim victory of that debate. I feel like it's become so muddied and diluted, and it's not really a pure conversation anymore. And what I find interesting about that debate, and I've seen it on I've listened to about 3 or 4 podcasts in the last few days while I'm here working, and I was building something for the kids earlier today, this big marble track. It's really quite cool. I actually quite like playing it myself. You put marbles on it and they go in. It's great. Anyway, I was building it for them. So I had some podcasts on in the background. And what I found was really interesting is the outers just unanimously want him gone. And there is this sort of element of, and if he goes, we are going to get better. We'll get over the line. The people that want him in, there is this sort of approach of, people will go backwards. We can't take the risk. We could go backwards. And I feel like what's missing in the conversation is both acknowledging the other side's argument. There is a chance that the Arteta outers could be wrong and they sack Arteta, they bring in Alonso, and it doesn't work at Arsenal when they go backwards. There's a chance for the outers, for the inners, that they get rid of him, they bring in Areola, and he takes them over the line and wins the league, right? Both those things could happen as an example. And I also think the same thing in the Man United fan base. And I use that one because it's a very sort of famous debate within the fan channel communities, where I look at it and go, you're right to think, you're okay to think that Amorim's system is never going to work. At the same time, can you at least acknowledge, is it not conceivable that you buy him 5 or 6 players in the summer and suddenly this system really starts to take shape, and maybe then your mind could change and you're like, actually, add another 5 or 6 players to this, and it could be a team that does well. I'm just open-minded about these things. And the one thing for me, I've said all along, it's not even about Amorim. We've decided on a style of play that requires a certain type of profile of player. I just want us to stick to that plan as close as we can for the next 3 to 4 years and build a squad. It's about building a squad for me, maybe more so than anything else, because we haven't had a complete squad who is suited to a particular way of playing football or a couple of ways of playing football for 11, 12 years now. We have consistently had an aging squad at the end of Fergie's time, and we just created these Frankenstein hybrid squads that have never been balanced. So I feel like if we could create a balanced, high-quality squad over the next 3 to 4 years, just put aside whoever the manager is for a moment, there's something that for me is more my focus in terms of the club building. So, look, my expectations and standards, I don't believe are on the floor. I just believe there's a realistic expectation of when to achieve them. In terms of tonight, welcome, by the way, Mo. I know you got caught in a lot of traffic, mate. So thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. In terms of tonight, do you think it's too early to start young Obi? Or do you think actually, given the struggles up front that Rasmus Højlund is having, is it worthwhile giving the young lad an opportunity?
Speaking of Man United, I think Rasmus Højlund must start. If you want to get anything from the summer for this guy, Rasmus Højlund, he needs to be back in form. So in my opinion, yes, the youngster is here and he wants to get confidence. But Man United fans are adamant and they made up their mind that Rasmus Højlund needs to leave the club. So if Man United are going to recoup any of that money that you spent, he needs to start bagging goals, and Amorim needs to make sure that this happens. The more you put him on the bench, I think the less his value will go. And in my opinion, he needs to start. Against Ipswich, it's the right game to start the guy, because he might get you a goal or two. And now, Rasmus back and the PR start kicking in. I hear Man United fans that don't trust him to score goals. You aren't in a relegation scrap. You aren't going to get relegated, so you know that. Everyone knows this. So you're basically trying to get Rasmus Højlund, and who knows, you might need Rasmus Højlund in Europa League as well. So I think that Rasmus Højlund needs to start the game today. He might give you a goal or two. His value will go up. And also you will get him confidence. These are the games that will get the guy confidence, in my opinion. There's a lot of people talking about the lap this, the lap that. You spent like how much, Terry? 60 million pounds on Rasmus Højlund? You need to recoup some of that money. But you need to
I'm not even talking about recoup money. The thing is, look, I'm a big believer, and Mo knows this and Terry knows this, of pressure. I believe in pressure, whether it be positive or negative. Pressurizing an opponent, pressuring a player, etc. And I do feel like if you do start like Obi Martin, you are applying a bit too much pressure on the shoulders of a young kid, and I really don't like that. Like even the whole Klopp kids final in the Carabao Cup, like a lot of them Klopp subbed on the pitch, like they didn't really start the game. And I'm looking at today's game. Look, it's a game against Ipswich. Okay, it's a game against Ipswich. It's at Old Trafford, right? Yes, at Old Trafford. It's a game against Ipswich at Old Trafford. And by the way, no disrespect to Terry, no one is watching other than Man United fans. The whole world is either watching Arsenal Forest or Liverpool Newcastle. Let's all be honest here. So no one's even watching. So it's going to be Højlund. This is your last chance. If you want to show you are any striker, like are you even a striker to begin with? Today is your game. And then 50th minute mark, 55th minute mark, the scoreline is still 0-0, whatever it is. Bring on Chido Martin. He hears the crowd, will him on as he's coming on. It feels the pressure is a bit uplifted. He doesn't feel like he must score from the beginning, etc. So that's the thing that I always say: start with experience.
Yeah, listen, I think both of you make really good points. I'm not arguing against them. I'm just the one thing I would
the kid to start.
Yeah, I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent.
Oh, okay.
So like I'm saying, I think you both made really good points, and I get this could be a game where Rasmus scores a couple of goals. It gives him a bit of confidence ahead of the Europa League game midweek, which is important. Absolutely makes sense. Sorry, next we've got an FA Cup game this weekend, then the Europa League game. Makes complete and utter sense. At the same time, I don't think there would be, knowing the way Old Trafford takes to young kids from our academy making their debut. If he has 4, 5, 6 bad touches, you might hear, if something was a good chance, but you won't hear the same type of reception that and moans and groans that you do towards Rasmus or Xerxes or Bruno in those situations. The crowd is very, very encouraging of that, but I'm indifferent about it. If we start him, I'm excited to see what he can do from the start, get a real look at him in a game like that. At the same time, I think what you both said holds a lot of water. It's just a lot of United fans online today sort of debating whether or not he should start. I still don't think he's ready on a personal level. I feel that when I watched him against Everton, I liked his runs and his movement. He created space, but most of his first touches, he was sort of controlling the ball and it was almost bouncing up in the air and you could see the nerves. However, he did come on to a very raucous atmosphere, 2-0 down away from home against Everton. There aren't very many harder, probably away at Anfield, maybe away at Newcastle. I can't think of too many worse places to be 2-0 down to make, like, not your debut, but when he came on against Spurs, there was like 30 seconds to go. Like, to actually get some significant game time, I can't think of there's not very many worse environments for a 17-year-old. So we'll see what happens tonight. Viewers, I'd love to get your
I want to drop an unpopular opinion before we move on.
Go on.
The next club that Rasmus Højlund signs for, because I think he will leave in this summer, whichever club he signs for, if said football club, whichever club it is, asks Rasmus Højlund to only be the final chance, like the final action in the game, I think he'll score plenty of goals.
Bro, I would take him on a heartbeat, bro. Inter.
By the way, Rasmus Højlund, can I just say one thing about Højlund?
I agree with you.
Højlund is a dreadful footballer, but a very good finisher. If the guy is allowed to just be in a position where you just finish the chances, I don't want you involved in build-up play, I think he can score goals. I'm telling you right now.
I look at it this way with him. I understand where you're coming from, and I think there's a lot of validity around it. I look at the chances the last 2 seasons that Darwin Núñez has missed. A lot of them Rasmus Højlund scores. I believe it. I look at Jackson. Jackson is a technical football player. Yep, better. Those chances in those, those first 4, 5, 6 games in that really long run where Chelsea weren't winning, those chances Jackson was missing, Rasmus, I think, scores those if they're created for him. And even Amorim himself, and he's been very damning of this squad, has said that and he was about Xerxes and Rasmus. He said that we just don't create enough chances in games for our attackers. And sometimes it's their fault. I'm not defending them completely. They should have gone to the far post instead of the near post. The differences between Man United and a lot of our competitors is that our competitors just keep creating and keep creating. We might create one, and then that's it now for the next 30 minutes. There's no more chances, and that ain't good enough. But yeah, give us your score predictions for tonight, people. We'd love to hear from you in terms of Man United versus Ipswich. How do you see the game going? This year says, can we talk about the value of AFCON? We'll come back to that in a moment. Declan Beckenbauer Rice says, Liverpool to bottle tonight. We need Hassam's tears. Just very quickly on that super chat.
I think this is Devon, by the way.
Okay, if you were to lose tonight, you wouldn't be crying tears, would you?
No, I wouldn't be crying tears, but I would be really upset because we have to win. I'm in must-win mode now. Just win, and keep it stepping. As simple as that. I just want to put my foot on their throat and just end it once and for all. I've had enough of this whole like bullshit. And I did say, if we do win today and Arsenal lose to Forest, I will say it's over. But as things stand, no.
I understand where you're coming from. I do. Thank you, Luke, for encouraging everybody to hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. The red and blue says it's not even about Arteta in and out. Simple question. If you're in charge, would you sack Arteta? You were watching the show yesterday because you were super chatting during the Arsenal section. You heard my answer. You heard exactly what I said yesterday, and I stand by it again. If I'm in charge of Arsenal and I am tasked with making that decision, the answer is yes. If I believe there's a higher probability that the replacement is better. So if we can convince Diego Simeone, and I'm saying we, because someone might clip this up, I'm talking about me being on the Arsenal board now. Okay, so that's the hypothetical situation that you've asked me. If we can convince Diego Simeone, if we can convince Jurgen Klopp, if we can convince Pep Guardiola, if we could convince Xabi Alonso, if we could convince Inzaghi, those five, for instance, if we could convince them to quit their current club and we could afford the compensation and we could afford their wages, then yes, I would. So that's your answer. Yes, for the right replacement is my view on it. Simple as that. Hopefully you remember that from yesterday, red and blue, but thank you very much for the super chat. Patrick here says, results and performances are always important. Yes, but I'm not going to judge Amorim until we see him somewhat backed in the transfer window. I'm more concerned with what the ownership is doing. Yeah, listen, look, Patrick, I'm concerned with what the ownership are doing at the moment. I'm hoping for a good summer and a big improvement next year. We will wait and see. We're struggling to sell out. Well, we say we're struggling to sell out. There's lots of tickets available for the next 3 games. That's being blamed on the ticket prices going up. Ironically, slightly less crowd with higher ticket prices will actually yield more of a profit. That's the way economics work, because you have less costs when there's less people in the stadium, because you'll have less stewards, you'll have less policing, you're buying less supplies, but you're charging exponentially more money. You're charging more money, which means over the course of time. I read something once that you could, if you double your prices, you can lose up to like 60%, 67% of your customer base and still make higher profits. So from an economic point of view, they're not going to be that worried about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 tickets not selling if they're charging a bigger amount. So yeah, from their perspective, they're just trying to make the club profitable. So what they do with those profits, I'm really focused on. I'm not happy with all the things they're doing to get there, but it's whether or not the Glazers are going to start taking dividends again, or whether we're going to start paying off debt. It's whether or not we're going to really back the manager and buy the top quality players he needs in this system, or we're just going to start pocketing. The owners are going to start pocketing it for themselves. So yeah, I'm very focused.
I love reading Patrick's chat because I literally agree with every single word he just said in that chat.
No, listen, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. Absolutely, he does. This here says there's a difference between youth and first team football. There certainly is, but what I would say, Joshua, is there comes a point where you've got to try some kids need an attempt. Rashford wasn't deemed ready when he got the opportunity, and he wasn't, but he delivered. I think the mistake we made with Rashford after that point is we started using him. Again, hindsight's lucrative. I think he then started being used far too regularly, far too soon in his career. This was a player that wasn't going to get into the first team if it wasn't for 2 or 3 injuries. He was fast-tracked because of injuries and scored 2 braces, 2 games running. And I think if we could do it all over again, if I knew then what I knew now, I'd have used him in that next season, that first Jose season. I'd have used him far more sparingly, personally. But that's just me. Make sure you hit the like button if you haven't done so already, people. Make sure you are subscribing. I want to talk Liverpool for a moment before we go on to a debate about the season. Interesting statement last night from Mo Salah, which was very much along the lines of, and I'm going to try and find it here for you. I know you've already read it, Hassan. Probably a few little tears when you read it as well, to be fair. But let me just find exactly what he said so I can read it out to the audience. I do apologize. Where are we? No, that's not the one. Here we go. He says, I want the fans to remember that I gave it all to the fans. I gave it all to the city. I was here. I wasn't lazy. I just enjoyed my football and gave it my all. I think that's what the city is about. They give you love and you have a connection with them because you give your all. I just want them to remember that I was here for 8 years and gave it my all. Isn't it funny how he doesn't mention technical ability and he speaks about fucking working hard? Isn't it funny that all great athletes do that more than technical? I always find that interesting, but that does, and I don't want to put words in Mo Salah's mouth, that does sound a little bit, and I'll go to Mo first on this, his fellow compatriot. It does sound a little bit, I think I'm going. Just the way it reads to me. I don't know about your view on that.
What it reads is that he's saying goodbye to everyone and he's literally calling out the ownership and saying that I give it all. I'm not lazy and these guys are not giving me the contract. Yes, it sounds like he's gone, to be honest, which will be the end of that era of Liverpool. It's sad to see Mohamed Salah leave the Premier League, the league that we like and we watch. But I don't think he's going to leave. I think they're going to come to a compromise at the end, and I think he's going to stay. I genuinely believe that Mohamed Salah is going to stay. Yes, all of these things and emotional statements and all this stuff, I believe at the end he's going to stay, to be honest. He's going to stay at Liverpool. He's not going to go to Saudi Arabia.
I think he stays as well, just as much as this sounds like a goodbye. I don't believe it's a goodbye. I think he will stay. I think this is another indirect way of calling out the ownership. And listen, people have just...
I agree.
It's just this whole, like... the PR for Fenway Sports Group will never end, honestly. This is just absolute rubbish, to be honest. Like, there's a reason why more and more people are just turning on the ownership and the way that this club is run with this whole conversation. And look, here's the thing with Mo. Mo's very smart. Mo will come out after an all-time performance or memorable goal or a performance against a big club and make such statements. I mean, he did it Old Trafford away. He did it, I think, after Man City at home. I think he did it after the away game against Arsenal, where he scored the goal at the end. He did it now after away at the Etihad. And he was asked, how would you like to be remembered? And the reason why he keeps saying, I gave it my all, I gave it my all, I gave it my all, I think he's just sending a subliminal message. And at the end of the day, I think deep down, like, the Liverpool ownership and the Liverpool board really care about the PR and really care about the way that they're looked at, which is the reason why Ornstein, in the middle of a transfer window, put out a pro FSG article in the middle of him reporting transfer news. There's a reason behind all of this. But I do agree with Mo. I think he will eventually get what he wants and sign a contract extension. At the end of the day, even the stuff that Arne Slot says about him in the press conference, he says, we need all our forwards to be like Mo, because they're just not levels like that. Essentially, that's what he's saying. And I think with him, he's just sending a subliminal message to the board. I think he's sending a subliminal message to the fan base for them to all know, this is not my fault. I've asked for what I deserve. I'm not getting it. And if push comes to shove and I do end up leaving, just know you shouldn't blame me. You should blame the board. And that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah. No, listen, I agree with that. I think there's a chance he stays. I think he has to. I actually don't think there's a replacement in the world for him that you can get. And I mean that from the sense of understanding the club, availability, technical ability, and output. You look at the man, when I look at the 4 things I judge players on, the 4 kind of pillars for me, I look at their ability, I look at their kind of statistics, I look at their longevity and consistency, and I look at the trophies that they're influential in winning. He ticks every single one of those boxes. He's phenomenal. the output this season, as an example, look, you can go and drop £200 million on Isak. I don't think Isak scores and assists as many goals as Mo Salah does, as an example. If he leaves, there's talk. And I know that part of the conversation got kind of, and rightfully so, muddy because Jamie Carragher did an absolute nonsense with about AFCON. You know when you've got Joey Barton backing you, you've got problems in it. And but what he was saying,
Joey Barton quoted Staffy as well. After all people,
Staffy lived in England. I was getting acted in that thread though. People saying Staffy, does Terry know what you think about his ancestors? And I was like, hang on a minute, hang on. What? No, people's history is so bad. I'm like, I'm working class, which means during the time when my country was out there doing madnesses, my people were stuck up fucking chimneys and had no voting rights here in England. Like I'm from working class stock. I wasn't. I'm not upper class. So yeah, no, it's fine what Staffy said. It doesn't bother me personally. Anyway, but what Carragher was alluding to is that Mo Salah is a trophy or two away from overtaking Dalglish and Gerrard as in the overall greatest Liverpool player. My first thought was it's finally good to see Liverpool royalty repeating what I've been saying for 3 years. I was always right about this, and I'm going to do a Don and say I told you so. Do you remember when I said Mo Salah is your greatest ever Premier League player? Now, the fact that Jamie Carragher, like Gerrard's best mate, is this close to confirming it, I think that holds a lot of water. Like I always remember Carragher saying that Gerrard was the best player, best player of the Prem. And then at the same time saying, and then I think Gary Neville said, yeah, but didn't you once say that Paul Scholes is the best player you've ever seen? But yeah, he's the best player in training, the best technical player, the best this, best that, but I still would put Gerrard above him. And it was obviously it was a bit of banter between the two of them, and it was fun. But for him to say that's massive. And that's why I look at it and think you've got to give him what he wants. He doesn't look like he's going to slow down. There was concerns the last time he got a pay rise 4 years ago, that he would kind of do an Aubameyang and down tools. That hasn't fucking happened. He's not going to he's not going to do it this time. And I
was there working with you even them times.
Crazy. And you know what? I couldn't believe people were making that suggestion because there was no indication that he would do that. And I just think he's irreplaceable. And I mean that in the sense of, let's say he does take over Kenny and he does take over Gerrard. That means he becomes your greatest player of all time. So in 150 years, he's your greatest player. By definition, that means he's irreplaceable. No one alive today may ever see a player as good and as consistent for Liverpool ever again, as an attacker I'm talking about. So letting him go is just, for me, it would be one of the worst decisions in Premier League history. There have been other players, when Lampard was allowed to leave by Chelsea, he still had something to offer, but he wasn't the same Lampard anymore, as an example. Mo Salah is the same Mo Salah he's been from day one at Liverpool. He's a phenom. He really, really is. And yeah, listen, Liverpool just need to go out there and tie him down to that contract. They really do.
But I want to ask a question. Do you think Mohamed Salah he's going to be the only player at the age of 33, apart from Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, to be offered the money he wants? Reportedly is $500,000 a week. There is no one at that age that was ever offered that much money, apart from Cristiano Ronaldo at Juventus at the age of 33 when he moved from Real Madrid. And at that time, Cristiano Ronaldo was arguably the best player in the world. Won how many Champions Leagues?
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4.
There's something you're missing. There's something you're missing in that. Though. There's something you're missing in that. Yes, there's never been a player in their mid-30s earning that kind of money, but that's because in the last 10 years the inflation in terms of player wages has gone through the roof. So if you look at the equivalents, there have definitely been. Maldini was definitely earning the equivalent of 200 or 300 grand a week in his latter years at Milan, as an example. Ryan Giggs was earning very good money in his late 30s and 40s at Manchester United. It's just in the last decade, the money in football has grown sort of 400 to 500%. So there have been lots of top players that have been in their pomp earning massive money in their 30s. Zlatan, when he joined Manchester United, I mean, it's crazy to think Zlatan joined nearly a decade ago now. It feels like it was last week. He came in on around 300 grand a week, and Salah's better than he is. And so for me, I just kind of look at it along those lines of, I think it's relatively risk-free for Liverpool. Yes,
Yeah,
he
I
could have
agree.
he could get a massive injury. He could have a massive injury. But I think Mo's the kind of person that he's already rich. I bet you could put a clause in there that said if you get a career threatening or ending injury, there's a way we can reduce the salary to X. I guarantee he would do it because I don't think he's a greedy man, but he is rightfully pushing to earn what he deserves. He's the best player in the world at the moment. He's been the best player in the Premier League this season, one of the best and most consistent in the last decade. He's Liverpool's greatest ever Premier League player. And if you win some of the major trophies are still in this season, he's going to become your club's greatest ever player, and he should be paid accordingly. Plus, he is a commercial powerhouse for Liverpool
Yes.
Football Club as well. So you add all those things in together, and he is, in my personal opinion, I hate saying it because he's Liverpool, but he's more than worth it. He really, really is. Whatever you've offered Trent, add it to your offer for Mo Salah, and keep this man at your club for the next 3 years. Because if you lose him, and I know I haven't seen your replacements yet or anything else, if he leaves, I don't see you retaining the Premier League next year. And I think you'll be a title contending team,
100%.
but I just
100%
don't
we
think
won't retain it.
I just don't think you'll retain it, and that should be more valuable to Liverpool than saving 150 grand a week in salary. You're not even saving for whoever would replace him. You're not even going to save that much money, and they're not going to be as good. It's crazy to me.
Can I ask you a question? Would you be okay if Salah at the age of 33 leave and you sign, for example, Isak and Anthony Gordon in one window?
No.
No, you don't think
No,
that
because this is not a Mike Das calculator moment where we sit up here and just calculate output for output and think this is how life works. Mo, the things that he brings to the football pitch is not even something that like just shows up on the stat sheet. What he brings to your team is a fear factor. What he brings to your team is something that allows other teams to be shitting their pants when they see Mo Salah playing on the football pitch against them. Isak doesn't have that yet. Gordon doesn't have that yet. You know, they're looked at as very good players, but they're not off that ilk. You know, they're not an Mbappe or a Vinny or a Salah where you're coming up against him going like, shit, we have to take care of Salah today. That doesn't exist for those two players yet. And the reason why also I think your hypothetical is crazy is because this is not a Liverpool realistic hypothetical. Let's be honest here. You know, we're the type of club to go like, Mo Salah, thank you for your services, then sign Kudus and Mbuemo and go like, oh, this is the Salah replacement. So we already know how we operate.
You don't think that Kudus and Isak can replace Salah's output?
No.
Because it doesn't look like you like Salah that much.
Moments, or goals in a big game, or him winning you a game. Essentially, the game against Manchester City, basically, it's a set-piece routine that he was on the end of, and a goal that he created out of nothing. You see the out of nothing part? It's very important because people forget it. The out of nothing part is something that generally separates the elite from the regular, and from the very good. Someone who makes something out of completely nothing. Ronaldo, Messi, Salah, like these players create something out of nothing, you know, the likes of, in the English Premier League, Thierry Henry, the likes of Steven Gerrard, Patrick Vieira, Wayne Rooney. We're talking about the best of the best players here, and they all make something out of nothing and give you a presence on the pitch. That doesn't show up in the stat sheet. That's a matter of presence. Yeah, that's my honest answer.
Yeah.
Also, Kudus and Mbuemo don't replace Salah.
I listen. I stand by this. I don't know if you ever will have a replacement for him. I almost feel like I actually think one of the. I want to make sure I word this in the right way because I'm not sure how to articulate it. I almost feel like your replacement for Mo Salah shouldn't be someone who's on the right. You should find a good replacement on the right, but the person that's actually meant to pick up the mantle, I think, needs to be a left-sided attacker or a striker, so there aren't the like-for-like comparisons. Does that make sense? So go out and buy, a 30, 40 million pound right winger that's very good, but I think maybe spend the money on a replacement in a number 9 as an example. Because if you spend all that money, like we had it with Ronaldo, we kept on trying to buy the new right winger that was of that level. And I just sometimes feel that actually what we'd have done is bought a good, we got Valencia. If we'd have gone and spent that Ronaldo money properly and gone out and bought Benzema or a world-class striker or a world-class left-sided attacker, then I think there'd have been less comparisons, if that made sense. I think it makes it easier for the new person as well, because that's one thing that Liverpool fans haven't really been through yet. The younger generation, that is. The older ones certainly have. And City fans have never been through this. When you start to replace your greats with new players, that's also when it becomes harder for fans and hard for those players, because the like-for-like comparisons start. Are you as good as Van Dijk? Are you as good as Trent? Are you as good as Salah? Are you as good as this and that guy? And it adds a new layer to the sort of discourse around the club. A few super chats here before I ask a big question about the Premier League season. English Talent here says, Salah, Van Dijk, major parts of why the transition to slot is easy and successful. Compare this to 2013 Rooney, Van Persie under Moyes. They started to down tool culture. Well, I don't think Rooney and Van Persie were necessarily the issue, but the squad was aging, as an example. Fergie's retirement came more out of the blue. He wasn't planning it at the beginning of the season, but due to the passing of his wife's sister and what his wife was going through, he made that decision at that age. So that's probably why the transition wasn't as great as everybody would have preferred. But we were being run by the Glazers back then, not by FSG, and the Glazers are different on a different planet. Now, they're not perfect, and I know there's things that Hassan doesn't like about them. But if I could say to every Liverpool fan who hates FSG now, right, we can swap the last 15 years under FSG with what the Glazers have done. I bet if that's the only options, they're sticking with SFG 110%.
Glazers' money with Klopp as manager, we win even more trophies.
But not if it's a bank manager and an accountant picking the players for you. Because you wouldn't have hired Klopp.
You replace them with the whole system. You don't get the money with Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's the whole point. Yeah, and that's what people don't realize. You lose all those
Richard
things.
Hughes. You want to go there?
Yeah. If Salah stays, he needs rotation to get a rest at 33. Well, yeah, I mean, there's an element of truth in that. He needs backup like everyone else. This is here from Jim, who's gifted 5 memberships to some of you watching. So if you've got one of those new memberships, be sure to thank Jim for that. So thank you. He also says here with his own member chat, been a member for 12 months. Thank you. He says, Terry, I have a minor complaint. On the Top 6 show, you hardly ever talk about my poor 12th place team. I understand why, but still, I like your opinions. Actually, we're 13th. I assume you're Spurs saying that. You are
Spurs,
right. Yeah, I think Spurs are 13th. Look, do you know
Jiminy, can I respond to you, please?
Yeah, go on.
Jiminy, if you send us a one super chat, just short or even a comment, I promise you, Terry will put on the screen, explaining us what is the point of Spurs. I think Terry will discuss it more. I promise you, I say this as respectful as I can. Tell me the point now of people discuss, because me and Hussam, by the way, and I'm being serious, had this off camera discussing Spurs, and we started to discuss what should we discuss Spurs today on El Ahwa, on other should we take time and discuss Spurs? Jiminy, I want you to explain to us why. Like, what should we do? By the way, I have Kate tomorrow, one of my shows. Kate's tomorrow on Top 6. I want people to give me the conversation, though.
Do you know what's interesting? Man United would have had less mentions from me in the last couple of weeks had it not been for the Ineos stuff and how we're operating off the pitch. That's been more the talk about Man United than it has been the football. When it comes to Spurs, like you won your last 3 games, which is very good. But even when we're in the group chats, we say because what I put in all the group chats before Top 6 shows, straight fact shows, is what we're talking about, what's on your minds, what's on your agenda today. And there are lots of Spurs fans that come on our Top 6 shows, and I don't remember once in the last 3 weeks them mentioning anything they wanted to discuss on Spurs. In fact, their words to us are, we're quite happy to not talk about them at the moment. So that's kind of why that's been. It's not, people realize I don't set the agenda per se for these shows. I reach out to anyone who's ever been a Straight Facts member or been on Top 6 will advocate for this. I send it in. Sometimes I actually get frustrated if I'm the one who's got to think of all the talking points. I actually think these shows are better if the guests come with a subject that they're passionate about to discuss on the show. It makes for a much better podcast. So that's kind of it, Jay. But thank you for the super chat, bro.
When we come to Arsenal, Gemini, I'm going to give you a very good question, and maybe you can answer it, Gemini. I promise you that.
Enjoy your Premier League while it lasts. Mo leaves, you are finished. Is what
But you're the
Declan
same guy
said
earlier
last.
on the stream that said you want Newcastle to win for my tears, and you're saying enjoy your Premier League. So
Is that the same guy that said once Pep leaves and Man City fall off, we will win the league, though?
Yes, that's the same guy.
Maybe. May
Evans Burner.
B. This year says, so Sam, do you think the length of contract as well as the wages is a stumbling block for FSG? Mo Salah is amazing, but he's also 33. Is that a concern?
Your weight is your mass times gravity. Gravity is 9.8 newtons everywhere on this earth. But if you fly to the moon, gravity is not 9.8 newtons. So your weight could be significantly more or less on different planets. Even the law itself of gravity has exceptions. And Mo should be the exception to the rule when it comes to this conversation. The reason why he needs to be the exception to the rule is I've got evidence, mate, for the last 8 years of him being fit. Alhamdulillah, never getting injured. Alhamdulillah, being consistent. And when you look at the consistency, the last time he hit 41 GA in a Premier League season, you want to know when? His first season. So if your first season and your 8th season are your 2 best seasons, that shows me that there is a genuine element of longevity there. So it wouldn't worry me whatsoever, to be honest with you.
IFL says, Terry, why are you censoring super chats? If I say something negative about Mo Salah, it does not send. Well, I don't control the super chat. There's no way
you can't censor super chats to begin with.
Yeah, anyone who's a YouTuber will tell you there's nothing you can do to censor. You have no input on that, my friend. So you
can literally say Terry's a clown right now and it will send. So.
Yeah, you write the most, and I'll prove it. I won't put it up on the screen, but write the most nastiest message imaginable in a super chat and see if it sends. Now, if maybe YouTube has its own parameters where if certain words are used, they don't allow it to send through. Yeah, but that's nothing the YouTube is saying. If any YouTuber says that we are, they're lying. And I would any YouTuber that says we are censoring them instead of directly censoring and only censoring super chats, I will sign a document with both of us will sign a document confirming the other one will get the other one's YouTube channel if they can prove it. I guarantee they can't prove it. If anyone's saying that we're censoring super chats, they're liars. And I bet them my YouTube channel they can't show you where behind the systems you censor super chats because it does not exist. There's a few more comments here. Well, I want to hear Terry's opinion on Son possibly leaving, Romero back in training. If he thinks players back will improve us. Listen, I can answer that very quickly. I think Son is coming towards the end of his career. He's a player that's massively relied on his pace, and I feel like he's lost half a yard. You'll get moments from him still because he's a quality football player, but I think you shouldn't be keeping him just because he's the money maker for the football club. Romero being back's good for you. Very good player. If players coming back will improve you, it should. But if you actually look over the last 18, 19 months and look at more than that now, you're getting towards, about 18 months, sorry. You look at the volume of defeats you've had. Yes, you've had a load of them when you've had injury problems, but there's also a lot of defeats and bad results when you had a lot of your players available as well. So the answer is I don't know if you'll get better over a longer term period. I think what you need is not players back. You need better individuals by and large across your team, Jimmy, is what I think. This year says, question for Sam. Seeing March being Champions League, would you rest players for the final and focus on the Champions League, or would you go full force in the Carabao Cup final?
I don't want to rest players in a single game. The only game I'll be okay with us rotating a couple of players is Southampton at home in the Premier League, because I think we should literally be capable of beating Southampton even with our B side. So if we wanted to rest a couple of players against Southampton in the Prem, no problem. But I'm not resting players in the English Premier League against Newcastle and against whoever just to make sure that I go through in the Champions League. I could go through playing 2 games a week. And by the way, remember, we got no FA Cup games either. So this FA Cup weekend, we're completely off.
Yeah, I think they're going full strength, or as full strength as they can. But there we go. I feel Liverpool. I feel like Liverpool's losing 2 of the 3 of Van Dijk, Trent, and Mo. That could
I
be true.
stick by to my earlier on the season prediction, which is I think Trent leaves.
I hear that. Terry, I cannot send super chat saying Salah is not the words not and can't. Yeah, we ain't censored those words. in any way, shape, or form, and you can't
It's
censor.
impossible. It's impossible to censor these two words. The chat is full of cunt, not.
Yeah,
Bro,
yeah.
It's impossible, bro. Here we go.
Bruv,
Here
I'll
we
tell you what
go.
this might be. I'll tell you what this might be. Maybe you've got no money in your account, bruv. Maybe you're trying to pay with with a card that has no money on it. Maybe the card's got a block, but it's nothing to do with the Football Terrace censoring you. I know there's a lot of weird rumors about the Football Terrace doing funny stuff, but yeah, that's not one of them. We're not censoring them.
I literally just typed this chat.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone write not. Everybody write not. Yeah. Salah can't
You're a
play.
fucking liar. You're a liar and you're a hypocrite. Hold that. Hold that. Hold that,
Salah
you
is
fucking
not
liar. I
can't.
just
There
did
we
that to
go.
prove a point.
Yeah,
Hold that.
yeah. It's oh no. What we should have done is me with my hands like this, so that nobody, so I wasn't uncensored, so I wasn't taking the censors off. But yeah, no, it's I don't know where that guy's come from. That was a crazy one. That was a crazy one. Salah has no chin hair. See, the super chats do work. This guy must be typing some mad insult. And another person here says Salah has not and can't. Here we go.
It's just weird, bro. It's just weird, bro.
You
better
just
see
made
the
me spend 2 Jordanian
Bro,
dinars. I could have bought something
bro.
with that, man.
I'm expecting a $20 or a $50 super chat from you now.
Apologize.
Just apologizing for the people that are really just trying to prove you wrong, bro. I'm being serious, bro. Or listen, forget super chats. Gift them memberships, bro. The people that are give them memberships. Forget super chat. Give them memberships, bro.
Give them
Seriously,
memberships,
bro.
people. Get that done. Yeah, because that for me, it's again, it's your
You're
system.
literally-
It's
Guys, you can't censor words. The thing that I think this guy, I'll tell you what this guy wrote. This guy probably said Salah is an insult, racial slur, something like this, and there's a reason like it didn't send through.
or he's been indoctrinated or lied to by that. I have trolls online that write and say some of the strangest stuff. Well, you guys know this. Like some of the stuff that said, oh, Terry's done this, Terry's done that, Terry said this, Terry said that, and it's every year it gets funnier and funnier and funnier. Like there's a group of guys that write comments on our videos and then they delete their comments and then say, Terry's deleting my comments. And people go, why are you deleting them? And I follow their pattern. I just follow their pattern. And it's so funny. They were doing it daily. In the end, I won't lie. I've like blocked them from the channel in the end because it was funny the first few times. And then you get to a point where you're like, yeah, it's a bit weird now, isn't it? To keep writing a comment and then delete it and then have a burner account saying, why did Terry delete so-and-so's comment? It's like, well, where are you guys even talking to know what's going on? It's kind of strange. So yeah, but no, there's a lot of strange people out there. So thank you, by the way. Another 5 memberships have been gifted by Jim here. So thank you very much, Jiminy. I really do appreciate that. A question before we go on. This is more from Jed, but and people please understand, I'm this question I'm taking from Joey Barton, so it's not my beliefs. But does AFCON only matter if you're African or brown?
Go ahead, Mr. Egyptian.
Yeah, Joey Barton says it's only important or major to people from Africa and that are brown.
No, it is a major tournament, but also at the same time, there are weights to some of the tournaments, the same as the weight for Champions League, and the weight for the league is different. But it is a major tournament, and for me as an Egyptian, I witnessed 3 back-to-back in 2006, 2008, and it's one of the biggest achievements in the country's history, actually, in terms of football. But I think if Mohamed Salah, if there was AFCON this year, Mohamed Salah wins it, and he wins the Champions, and by the way, and he only wins the league, I think he wins Ballon d'Or with ease, by the way. So it is a tournament. Does it get more popular than the Euros, the World Cup? No. Is it as popular as Copa America? Probably not. But people shouldn't get angry at this. It's as I heard what Mark said this earlier today, it's a choice that they made it in January. But I think it's a major tournament. I think Joey Barton doesn't understand. He just wanted some clicks online. He wanted to trend again. So he said that. It is a very major tournament. For the people in Africa, it means a lot. For the people in Egypt, Morocco, Senegal, Ghana, it means a lot of them. But in the same time, it doesn't get the same coverage as European trophies, of course, because just the people that the main channels are just Europeans, basically. That's what's going on. And
What
but
I think is- yeah,
Yeah,
what I
like
thought-
when people say it doesn't really get coverage, like I'm sure maybe if you go like through Egyptian YouTube or Senegalese YouTube or like Nigerian YouTube during AFCON, like you will see coverage, but you know, if you're subscribed to a channel that covers mainly maybe Premier League, you might not get as much coverage, which is normal to be honest with you. But just because something doesn't exist in your own bubble doesn't mean it doesn't exist, period. Like there are things that exist around the world that all of us are unaware of. I actually think AFCON is one of the more entertaining tournaments. I do watch AFCON. I am a viewer of the tournament. I do watch alongs as well with AFCON. You know, but I think like the Copa America thing is very interesting because I look at Copa America right now, and when we were having discussion, I brought this up. People look at Copa America as like this major tournament, but I generally think there are like 5 crap teams in Copa America right now. There's a reason why they included Canada, Mexico, and the US in it now, and Panama, just to kind of make it a bit more competitive because it's essentially Brazil, Argentina, every now and then Uruguay, and the rest is just like, you know, just crap, basically. I mean, Argentina and Brazil have been the part of a Copa America final for the last 7 times in a row or something like that. You know, you look at the likes of Peru. I think Peru could get easily beaten by a bunch of AFCON teams. Bolivia could get beaten by a bunch of AFCON teams. Chile right now with no Sanchez, Vidal, Gary Medel, like these guys, Claudio Bravo, they're all gone. Chile could literally just get beaten by a bunch of teams. Same with Ecuador, to be honest with you. So, yeah, like, listen, the AFCON is definitely a major tournament, and you can ask some of the best players to play in Europe who haven't won it what it means to them. Like, if you sat down Didier Drogba, one of the legends of the sport, doesn't literally stop the civil war in his country, did not win an AFCON, and go like, I wish I won an AFCON. You know, if you spoke to Salah, the same thing. You spoke to George Weah, the president of Liberia, Ballon d'Or winner, he would have said, like, of course, I wish I won an AFCON for Liberia.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The thing for me is this. There's first of all the conversation because of Joey and the weird doubling down from Jamie is taking it away from its initial point in the which we'll get back to in a second. Look, I don't understand why he's had to bring skin color into the conversation. I'm adverse to that on every level. Whether you're insulting people or whether you're trying to be nice towards people, not that I think Barton was trying to be nice. I just don't necessarily see rarely I don't ever see the mileage in bringing up skin color, religion, sexual orientation, nationality. It's a weird thing. When people want to criticize Maguire and then mention his passport, it's all, and I'll use that example as well. I've always pushed back against that and been like, just criticize Harry Maguire because he's rubbish. You don't need to mention where he was born. I find it a strange concept. On top of that, there is this element of like, so there's a comment that comes in here, and it's really important to point out because I've kind of defended AFCON, but the Twisted Brother says, Terry, you don't cover it. No, I don't. I cover the Premier League. I cover Carabao Cup games, FA Cup games that feature the top 6. I cover a handful of games in other leagues and international tournaments, but I can't cover everything. I'm one person. I can't work 24 hours a day. But if I had the resource and we grew and got to another size, I would definitely look to do more international tournaments. But at the same time, on a personal level, in my life, I've watched far more AFCON games than I've watched Copa America. And that's because, typically speaking, they're on an hour that's easier for me to watch and manage. Most of my life as a kid, I wasn't allowed to stay up and watch Copa America games. I had to go to bed, go to school. When I was working a sort of 9-to-5 job, can't stay up till 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning to watch Copa America, but I could watch games in the afternoon or evening that were in AFCON. So I've watched far more AFCON in my life than I've watched Copa America. And that's not me taking anything away from either of those tournaments. What has annoyed me about this conversation, it's gone away from Jamie's whole point, which was wrong in the first place. His point was, and he explained it, so we know what he meant now the first time he mentioned it was, if Salah has an average season and then has a brilliant AFCON, that's not going to win him the Ballon d'Or. And I would agree with Jamie, but you could level that at anything. If Harry Kane has an average season at Bayern and then scores 17, 18 goals, the most ever in a World Cup, I'm using the World Cup because we know it's the biggest international tournament, scores 18 goals in a World Cup finals, 4 or 5 hat-trick in a final, I don't even know if doing that would win you the Ballon d'Or if there are 3 or 4 other players on a domestic level who have killed it that year. However, if the season Mo Salah has now had, if there was an AFCON this summer or an AFCON in the middle of this season, and Salah also went to that and was the star player, that would definitely elevate his chances of winning a Ballon d'Or. And that was, for me, the bit that's been forgotten about in this entire competition. The idea that based on a good domestic season, a good club European season for Salah, and if he was to have a solid AFCON, the idea that that AFCON wouldn't add value to his Ballon d'Or claim, I think is an absolute ridiculous notion. And that's been the frustrating bit for me in the last few days, when people say it's not a major tournament. So what do you consider to be a major tournament? That's when you get into the emotive side of it. Well, I don't watch it. Yeah, I mean, I know people that don't watch the UFC. Doesn't mean it isn't a massive sport. Just because I don't listen to opera, doesn't mean it isn't a massive music genre. And I think that people have sometimes got to get outside their own feelings with this. But yeah, I thought what Joey Barton said was just ridiculous in my personal opinion. This is from Sag. He says, it's mad Copa America is just Brazil and Argentina when Uruguay are the record holders. Crazy that. AFCON is a major, but not on Euros and Copa level.
Uruguay are the record holders because they won all of the Copas in like the 1930s and stuff. Like, listen, you can't come to me with bullshit like this because I'm a football historian. The last 7 Copa Americas have had either Argentina or Brazil on either side of the final. That doesn't happen in AFCON. So yeah, big up though.
Hey, listen, and African football by and large, listen, when it comes to the World Cup in Qatar, you know, for me, the heroes of that World Cup were Morocco as an example. And, you know, I think that the Africa as a continent is getting stronger and stronger. And it doesn't sit right with me to, and I feel like some people have this last week, they've shouted it. When Joey Barton mentioned the corruption, I'm like, do you remember what FIFA and UEFA went through a few years back? Fuck me, pink. I couldn't believe he said that. I couldn't believe he said it. Look what happened with Sepp Blatter and Platini and these guys. And you're telling me that sort of stuff is what doesn't sit right with me. It's the glass, don't throw stones in the glass house. Jimmy here says they're happy to talk about black players when they're carrying their club, etc. But suddenly it isn't important when it's made, when it isn't made for white people. Yeah, listen.
By the way, Africa is a whole continent. Africa doesn't just have brown people; it has white people and brown people and black people and people from like all different of ethnicities. People speak different languages, religions, everything. Yeah, it's like so. Yeah, it's not, guys. It's a continent. It's a whole continent. By the way, it's like assuming Russia and Wales is the same. It's not. You get me? So
no, yeah. I agree, and that's the thing for me. And there are again. I don't necessarily look. The Euros are not made for white people to enjoy. AFCON was not invented purely and solely for somebody from an African background to enjoy. They are international tournaments that people all around the world watch. Now, people are not going to watch all, other than Strasbourg, Steve. Nobody watches all football because there just isn't because there just isn't the time, right? And this is the thing. You don't have to. Like people often say to me, Terry, you don't really cover women's football. I have no problem with women's football. I'm not someone I don't have the time. And I mean that I watch all of the top 6 play twice a week each. So it feels like I'm watching around 12 games a week doing that. You've got the Champions League thrown into it. And yeah, I've got businesses to run, children to bring up, a dog to walk, and a life to lead. I can't do much more. It's not about, I don't like women's football. Yeah, I mean, I watch more women's football than I watch the Championship. I watch more women's football than I watch Liga. I probably watch more La Liga and Bundesliga than I do women's football. But it's like there's a limit. There's a limit to how much sport you can watch. It's as simple as that. You can't watch it all. You really, really can't. I always thought when I started doing this full time, I'd have more time to like watch even more sport. Probably got less time now for some strange reason. I'm always so bloody busy, but that's a good thing. His opinion has no weight. His brother is a racist and a murderer, and for some reason till now allowed to voice his hatred towards women. AFCON is peak, the story of the previous one, gold. Didn't Messi win it after a mid-season because of the World Cup? He did, but I think as well, but I think that's Messi. You're talking about Messi in this circumstance. I think
PSG won Liga that year. And he
Yeah.
wasn't mid. He had like 18
But,
assists.
but even if he was, it's Messi. I think that if you replace Messi, if that would have been Julian Alvarez, he wouldn't have won. Who was the main guy at the World Cup? Messi got injured game one. Julian Alvarez carries them to win it. They won a treble that year, I think. I still don't think he'd have won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, they probably gave it to
So
Haaland.
it's you know, this is the thing about winning the Ballon d'Or anyway. It's more of a popularity contest than it is anything else anyway. So yeah. Copa America, even in its history, is limited to 3 winners at best. UEFA and AFCON, European Championship, I think you mean that, and AFCON are a lot better in terms of technical standard and competition. AFCON is one of the biggest international tournaments, but you can't compare international tournaments and say one's better. The Sam in the 2022 World Cup, Ecuador beat Egypt, so even Copa America isn't weak.
I'm not saying it's weak. I'm saying 4 out of the 8 teams I wouldn't like watch. You know, I'm not sat here. I wouldn't do a watch along for Chile versus Ecuador. I wouldn't do a watch along for Peru versus Bolivia. I'm not doing those watch alongs. I'm sorry. Like even 10 years ago, I could name you a Peruvian player, Jefferson Farfan. You know, back in the people remember some names, but now no one can name a Bolivian player or a Peruvian player. We all know Moises Caicedo because he's in the Premier League.
Tell you someone who can. Strasbourg Steve can.
Strasbourg Steve.
I guarantee you can. I love that.
Strasbourg Steve probably knows the Jordanian national team better than me.
He is the only person that I genuinely, if he gives me advice or information about a player in the Eredivisie in South America, he's the only person, genuinely, the only person I've come across whose opinion on that I take seriously, because I know he's watched them. He hasn't just bought them on FIFA. I really believe he knows. Sagnik here says a 2011 Copa America was Uruguay versus Paraguay. Sam is lucky he doesn't have someone like me to fraud check him every time he opens his mouth. Historian, my ass.
Fantastic point from you, Saniak. You know what just happened on the super chat? I said the weather is nice today. You said, so it doesn't rain at all in your whole country? That's what you just said. Your initial point was about Uruguay being the record holders of the Copa America. So I brought up the fact that most of Uruguay's Copa Americas were won back in the day, which is still a correct fact, regardless of the fact that they won one in 2011. Because their Copa Americas are all like 1916, 1917, 1920, pre-World War I, pre-World War II, 90% of them. Like since 1997, they've won one Copa America. So my point still stands. Thank you, though. I know 2011 they had a fantastic team. Suarez, Forlan, you know, Sebastian Abreu. Big up.
I don't know why he's advocating a lot for Copa America, though. You're super chatting with rupees, if I'm not mistaken. What about the Asian Cup? Is that something you would advocate for as well, my man, or no?
Yeah, got eliminated in the group stages. Hold on.
Yeah. Would you advocate for that one or no, my man? I'm just really intrigued to see. Why is he advocating so much for Copa America and not for the Asian Cup, for example? And just
this super chat says, "I'm from Mauritius. We can't even qualify for AFCON." Is that so? I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Do you know how many countries that start the qualifications, Terry, in Africa?
No.
56.
Okay.
Can you
How many end up reaching it? 24, it's right? Right now.
They increased it to 24, bro.
Yeah.
It was 16. Can you imagine?
Yeah, it used to be even
how
less.
many countries have never played in AFCON because they couldn't even qualify?
That's crazy. I think the difference lies in the bigger games. Peak European games are better than AFCON games, but Norway versus Wales is the same as the mid. Yeah, but Gregory, I hear you on that.
I really can't imagine anyone doing Norway versus Wales. I'm so sorry. Like, this is not a game.
I hear you. Hi again, but then this is where it all becomes personal, and there's truth to it. I've got a soft spot for Wales because one of my late uncles, who I love dearly, he was Welsh. So as much as there's an England-Wales rivalry, especially since he parted, I've always wanted Wales, whether it's football or rugby, to do well because it makes me think of him, if that makes sense. So, like for me, as someone who's closely connected to Wales on a personal level, that game means something, as an example. But I get to a lot of other people, they're like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to watch some TV. I'm going to watch Netflix, and I'll tune in later when it's Spain versus Portugal." It makes a lot of sense. I meant people are happy for African players to carry their clubs, but then are the first ones to rag on AFCON and downplay its importance. Now, listen, I understand. Listen, I got your point. I got your point. I didn't think what you said was insensitive, personally. Let's be honest. The standard of AFCON isn't great, but what are you comparing that to? And you need to go into more detail on that, mate. All continent cups should hold the same weight. Again,
I agree, but unfortunately they don't. Yeah. Like, even like I'm from the continent of Asia. If Heung-min Son wins the Asian Cup, does that put him any further in winning the Ballon d'Or? Probably not. Like, I'll be honest with you. No, yeah, like that's the thing. Like, the same thing with the North American continent, like the Gold Cup. You know, if Christian Pulisic wins America the Gold Cup, are they gonna vote him for the thing? No, like, you know, I think Copa America and AFCON are on like very similar levels. Yeah,
Euros, AFCON, Copa America, then the Asian Cup, then the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I agree.
That makes sense. Didn't mess up. Already done that super chat there. Already done that one. Just finished work. Started this video, and to see Salah can't not, etc. What did
That's
I
a
miss?
third example of a super chat that he has Salah can't not in it.
He disappeared from the chat, bro.
Question for you guys. Is this the worst Premier League season ever?
No, and I want to be the one that answers this question. The people that bring up this point are the same people that just want to discredit Liverpool all the time, and it's so jarring and it's so boring. This is one of the best Premier League seasons we have ever watched, and it's not because Liverpool are winning the league. This is one of the best Premier League seasons that we're watching because of Bournemouth, because of Nottingham Forest, because of Brighton, because of Brentford, because of all these clubs that you now have to work your ass off and be so much more better than to beat, because of Newcastle United beating Arsenal 3 times in a row. And the thing is, the reason why this whole conversation is happening, people might not want to admit it, but I'll be the one that says it. Yes. You want to know why? Because Liverpool are top of the league. So what can we do to discredit them? Oh, this is one of the worst league titles. But wait. 1 second. Let's take the step back. You're the same people that go like, man, Wigan were proper Barclays. Man, Blackburn were proper Barclays. I think the season we're watching right now is a proper Barclays season. We're literally watching Barclays football this year. You go away to Bournemouth, you've got to fight for your life to get a win. You're playing Aston Villa, you've got to fight for your life to get a win. You're playing Nottingham Forest, you've got to fight for your life to get a win. You're playing Brighton, fight for your life. Brentford, fight for your life. This season, we really only have 3 weak teams in the league. Leicester, Southampton, and Ipswich, the 3 promoted sides. And even then, Ipswich have beaten Spurs and taken points off of big Manchester United. So just act like we aren't watching the reenactment of Wigan Athletic and the reenactment of, you know, the likes of Stoke from 15 years ago is absolute lunacy. And we're watching it with actual sexy, beautiful football. Not a single person in the chat can tell me that they sit there and watch 90 minutes of Iraola ball and don't get entertained. Not a single person in the chat can tell me that they don't watch Nottingham Forest on the counter-attack and don't get entertained. Not a single person in the chat can tell me that they watch Newcastle United this season, Eddie Howe, fantastic football, haven't been entertained. We just watched Newcastle beat Nottingham Forest 4-3. If that's not entertainment, if that's not quality, I don't know what is. And the Premier League is so good because the gaps between the teams are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Because now the team in 15th is Manchester United, and the team in 5th is Bournemouth. The team in 13th is Tottenham Hotspur, and the team in 3rd or 4th is Nottingham Forest. That shows that there is quality spread across in this English Premier League, and you've got surprise seasons from surprise players. And people bring up nostalgic points all the time. Like, with all due respect, like, I'm going to say this respectfully, Morgan Rogers is better than Hugo Rodalega. Okay? Chris Wood is better than Andy Johnson. Like, I grew up watching these players.
I thought you were about to say Andy Cole then. I shit myself.
No. Andy Johnson, you know. I could bring up names like, are we going to sit up here and act like Joe Linton, Sandro Tonali, and Bruno Guimaraes is not better than that Stoke City long throw in midfield? What are we doing here? this is the best the Premier League has ever been. And I'd be saying the same thing even if Liverpool were on top because of entertainment value. There are people who are my real life friends who have never watched Premier League their whole life, who are watching Premier League this season because like, shit, it's actually so entertaining. And I'll take it a step further. And this is my final point. The reason why Arsenal fans have to do this is to discredit Liverpool. The reason why City fans are doing this is they prop up their seasons more. But in the eyes of 99% of the neutrals, hypothetically on paper, the worst ever seasons we've ever watched were the seasons where City ran away with it. The Centurion season and the season, I think like 3 seasons after, where they won the league by a landslide. And the reason why I say that is because this wasn't happening. As things stand, all the way from Arsenal to Brighton, actually a step further to Aston Villa, so from the teams from 2nd to 10th, all have a chance of making top 4 football. If that's not entertainment, I don't know what the hell is.
So can I just say, I want to add on this. I don't think it's, some people will try and discount Liverpool. And I think rivals just have a habit of trying to, look, Liverpool fans have said for years that Fergie's titles don't count because he paid refs with no evidence. Football fans do this type of shameless stuff. I have enjoyed this season so far. Where I do think it could be considered one of the worst. So this perspective, I don't think it's about Liverpool being bad. It's because it looks like you've won it by the end of Feb. And it also looks like we know who's going down at the end of Feb. There is a top 4 race on.
Yes.
But I think, but football fans, due to, and I think this stems through bantering and attacking their own clubs. But I sort of look at this from the perspective of like, I'll come back to you just 1 second.
Mo's enjoying this as a Serie A merchant, he'll tell you.
No, it's not only about that. You know what the problem is?
Sorry,
someone asked me this question yesterday in private, and I compared it to Serie A in the 90s. Fiorentina, Lazio, Roma being all good.
Liverpool won the league. Liverpool won the league fairly easily, it looks like. The relegation looks like it's almost settled at this point. And because of banter, and whether it's attacking their own clubs or attacking rivals, we've created this notion that getting into the Champions League positions is something that should no longer be encouraged or celebrated. So we've sort of created a rod for our own backs. Oh, fucking hell, I can't say I'm happy about being in the Champions League. That's what low standard FC do. That's what no standards do. So we've created this kind of situation where, well, there's nothing to cheer on anymore. We can't get excited about a relegation battle because it's done. The title race looks like it's over. And you'd better not say a top 4 race can be exciting. Otherwise, you'll get shut down. That element, I understand why people may say this feels like the worst season ever, irrespective of who's won it, irrespective of who's going down, because what else now is there to fight for? And this is what I think is nonsense about the top 4 race element, is if you're a Chelsea fan who like Don or Ches, I'm using them as an example, who back their ownership, who believe they're moving in the right direction, making it into the top 4 is massive, because with this forthcoming summer's transfer window, more growth and development, who knows how good you'll be next year? You had a good half season, maybe you have a good full season, and maybe that good full season next year leads to you winning a Champions League. Man City fans should be pushing and fighting and celebrate being in the Champions League, because they'll definitely have a chance of winning it next year with the summer that they're going to have. Villa fans, Newcastle fans, Forest fans, all of you have 3 owners who are massively ambitious. You should hugely celebrate if you make it into Champions League football, because that increases your revenue, that will increase your sponsorship, which gives you more money, which you know your owners are going to spend on making your squads better to try and get you to the very top of the tree. And this is why I think all this bullshit over the past 5-6 years about top 4, and it all started ironically, and I know some of the viewers are going to hate this, it's all because of bantering Arsenal. Top 4 trophy. Why are you celebrating the top 4 trophy? It's all just nonsense. I would love my team to be qualifying for the Champions League, because you never know next season how good or bad you're going to be. And I would rather be in it and disappointed than not in it at all. And that for me is why I think people feel the season is over. They feel like there's nothing left to cheer for in the league, which I think is absolute nonsense. You should be cheering if you get into that Conference League or even the Europa League. And that's where I think our European counterparts I think that element of their league is so much better. Because if you're Real Betis and you get into the Europa League, your fans are buzzing about that the following season because it's a chance to win a trophy. And I look at it and think we as fans have become almost spoiled because of the money that our clubs make and this weird. And I think we create this ourselves as well. There's the Arsenal bit with the top 4 thing. And then there's also what we've all done to each other's clubs for over 20 years now. Why are you celebrating winning the Carabao Cup? It's shit. FA Cup ain't what it used to be. You won the Europa League. That's the shit version. Conference League. That's a pony trophy. Because we've created this shit banter, what we're now seeing is the side effect of that, which is, well, other than a league title race that may or may not include my team, there's nothing else to be excited about. It's because you've created a stupid fucking precedent that's now damaging your own fucking enjoyment of the game we love. I told you this would happen. So many times I've said it. You set these weird precedents, you set yourself up for failure. Personally, for me, I'm still loving this season. There's so many, there's teams left in Europe. Who's going to make it into the Conference League, Europa League, Champions League spots? It's there. It's fun. If you're not enjoying that, that's because you've set this weird precedent that all those trophies are meaningless. And if you
just before
that's Standard FC that have created that. And they're the fuckers that say trophies are worth more than anything else. Wankers.
Just before Mo even speaks on this topic, can you please just put up the latest super chat from Godswill? Godswill is a Chelsea fan, right? Godswill, I have done his head in last season by saying Poch should stay because he was a big Poch outer. Just the latest super chat, the one from Godswill. Put it up. He's saying he's essentially saying that. Tariq, can you put up the super chat, please?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so he's essentially saying that people are just upset that Liverpool are top of the league. The same people will mock the 1920 season. The Prem is incredibly competitive. 4th to 10th is 4 points.
Yeah.
Guys, we could have, in an objective reality, representing England in the Champions League next season, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, and Aston Villa. If that's not competitive, if that's not entertaining, I don't know what is. And if your standard for entertainment is simply a title race, I can bring you up plenty of seasons where there was no real title race, yet this wasn't really a point brought up. There were times where Ferguson won the league on a landslide without a title race. There were times where Chelsea won the league in a landslide without a title race. No one in them times was saying, oh, this is boring. Because there are other things that people were looking at. And instead of us looking at relegation and perhaps the title this season, the top 4 race is the most exciting one it's ever been. Because as things stand, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Arsenal lose the next 2 games against the Man Utd and against the Forest, and all of a sudden Arsenal are out of the top 4. Is that not entertaining, mate?
Yeah, listen, I agree. Louis, somewhere in the comments a minute ago, said,
watch out.
What did he say? Why didn't I star it? I should have, sometimes you mean to star something and then you don't. But he said, if Arsenal were top of the league, this wouldn't be discussed. Well, I think it would be, Louis. I think there'd be different groups of fans pushing this notion. I actually understand why Arsenal fans feel a little bit disenfranchised right now because I think they'll make top 4. They're not in the title race. I get why Arsenal fans would feel a bit flat. But there's so many teams that are in the race for big European competitions. Their fans acting all flat is fucking weird to me. It really is strange. This idea that, and someone's in the comments says Terry's trying to control banter. It's not about me controlling banter. I've not said you can't have the banter. I'm stating the standards you set and the things you say are taking away from your own enjoyment of the game, where the banter is becoming more important to some people than the trophies or the game in itself. And it's wrong. And you're seeing that why people say, oh, the season's already over. There's so much to play for this season. Loads of good teams left in the FA Cup. The European trophies feel like there's favourites, but they're wide open, as an example. Third and 10th are separated by about 5 points. So it's even closer than what you already said. The idea that it's the worst season ever, I just find that to be a very weird, almost self-serving perspective.
There's only one fan base that think that, guys. There's only one fan base that is saying this. One fan base.
Go on.
That are saying this. Arsenal fan base. The problem is, who's the biggest failure this season? Arsenal Football Club. It's the biggest failures this season. Should have won the league, should have even challenged Liverpool. By the way, Liverpool are not even that strong. I remember I called City boring because every game we go City and City would win the game. Liverpool have won against Brentford by Darwin Núñez 2 goals in the 91st and the 97th minute. Wolves, Matthias Cunha almost equalized in the last minute. Newcastle equalized against Liverpool because Kelleher made a mistake. Against Brentford, Liverpool, Bournemouth. Liverpool had a penalty and a win, but Bournemouth had 2 XG in that game. That is not Liverpool blowing away the league. It should have been Arsenal's job to really put the pressure on Liverpool, but they failed. That is the reality, people.
Points and gave you multiple
Liverpool have dropped points. Aston Villa, Liverpool dropped points. Liverpool dropped points against other teams. Liverpool could have been under pressure. By the way, if Liverpool continue on the trajectory they're on, Liverpool are going to get only 90 points. Man City won the league last season, it was 91 points. So basically,
was the league bad last year when Man City won it with 91, or the year before when Man City won it with 89? Was it bad then?
And by the way, I'm just going to say something. It's not Igan only. I've seen big accounts of Arsenal on Instagram, on Twitter, trying to run the narrative that, yeah, this season is so bad. If this season is so bad and Arsenal are that great, why aren't you challenging Liverpool today? Why are you giving up on the season then? If this season is shit, why haven't you won it then? Why are Liverpool winning it? By the way, and I'm going to repeat this again for the people that said, Liverpool are not the Man City of the Centurions or the Liverpool that got 99 points.
Let me ask you a question. What are they saying is bad, though? Are they saying their season's bad?
The level. They said the level. The level of this Premier League is bad.
That's what
Arsenal
they're indirectly saying, Terry.
Bro, I can I'm not going to name names, Terry. There are big accounts from big content creators that went on Instagram and on podcasts and said this is one of the worst seasons in the modern era of the Premier League in terms of level. Wallahi, they pushed that and they said, write this season off. Right? Liverpool won it. Who cares? We'll start next season. But if it's that bad, why didn't you win it? And do you know what's their excuse? Which brings us to another point. Injuries and red cards. All the circumstances were against us this season. That's why we didn't win it. That's why we didn't win it. It's so disingenuous. I genuinely believe that if the 10th team in game week 28 have a chance of making it to the Champions League, we're in for the 10th. If you go any team in the Premier League, and I mean it, any team, including Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, going away to Brentford is one of the toughest games of the season. They're 11th. 11th! There is a forward that is about to get relegated, Dilap. Everyone is like, I want this guy. He's about to get relegated. Wolves, 17th. Everyone is scared. I don't want to play Wolves, bro. I don't want to.
Arsenal fans want Cunha. He's 17th.
Everyone wants Nouri. They're 17th in the league.
Joao Gomez, Mario Lemina probably starts for a couple of teams. I'll be honest with you. Listen, we're top of the league, and oh my god, the title race doesn't exist, and we're and Liverpool this and Liverpool that. The team in 6th currently, Newcastle, have got about 3-4 players that would start for us. Lewis Hall starts over Robertson. Isak starts for us.
Liverpool
Anthony
won
Gordon
the league
starts for us.
I'm going to tell
Bruno
you why.
Guimaraes starts for us.
Liverpool won the league because they have clutch moments throughout the whole season that came from Mohamed Salah. That's it. Otherwise, Liverpool would have been on 60 points now, or 58, or something like this. If Mohamed Salah was having his average season over the past 3-4 years, Liverpool would be like on 59. It would have been, this is the greatest season ever in the Premier League. But actually, it adds also. Because it's one of the greatest seasons ever in the Premier League. And I'm going to tell you why, people. But I know that a lot of you don't like it, because it touches Thierry Henry and Alan Shearer and these guys. Because Mohamed Salah, inshallah, touchwood, is about to break the record for the most GA ever recorded in Premier League history. 47. Mohamed Salah was in 41. There's 11 games left. That's another great thing. Why did we say Haaland broke the record and Salah broke it? That was a great season for the Premier League. Finally, records are broken. Yeah, Mohamed Salah is about to break a record. Why is no one talking about it? Because you don't like it, right? Because it's not your club. But the reality is, we are in for it's a very good season.
Saka was on 25 goals and 16 assists in February.
Oh my God, yeah, Bukayo
Would it
Saka.
still be the worst season ever? No, it wouldn't.
I'm going to tell you one thing, guys. Do you know who's the only team at the current moment that is failing in the Premier League? There's only one team that is failing. It's basically only one team.
Who?
It's Arsenal. Miserably, bro. Bro, fucking miserably, bro. Or even fucking Chelsea are fucking fourth, bro. And fucking Chelsea, bro, are fourth, bro. Everyone is losing game to make Chelsea achieve their target, bro.
We need more to elaborate on this. You have to elaborate.
Yeah. Why
You
are
can't
Arsenal
just
the only
drop
team
me off
failing?
the
Go on,
ocean.
yeah,
I asked George yesterday. Let me ask you a question. If Arsenal finish second and don't win anything, right? And if there are one team that actually experts said that they're favorites to win Europa League. Do you guys know who? Who are favorites to win Europa League?
I think
Run.
last year.
No. Tottenham Hotspur.
with the bookmaker, with the
Yes.
bookmaker, they are, yeah.
Yeah, the bookmakers have said Tottenham Hotspur. Okay, but we're gonna go with the Run, right? Because the Run is favorites. They don't face a lot. There's only Lazio on that side. If Spurs, and I'm gonna just say this, if Spurs climb the table and finish 8th or 9th and win Europa League, and Arsenal finish second, genuinely speaking, who has had a better season? Let me add to that. There's a difference when Man United finished 11th and won a Carabao Cup. The reason why, because Arsenal were progressing from the season that they didn't win the league when Saliba got injured to making it to the last day of the season, last season with Man City, toe-to-toe to the last day of the season. But now it's 3 years now, and you came second. So basically, you haven't progressed. You're stagnant. So we are expecting you to challenge, and you really went back with Arsenal. Whatever context. I'm not saying the context. There is injuries, there is red cards, whatever you want to say. But basically, you haven't progressed, Arsenal, right? Have Arsenal progressed? Can I ask everyone in the chat, yes or no question? Have Arsenal progressed this season? The answer is simply, no, they haven't.
No.
They actually went backwards, right? He went backwards. Kai Havertz went backwards. Odegaard went backwards. Saliba is worse than last season. Declan Rice is worse than last season. Am I wrong to say all of this? All of these guys are worse than last season, right? So now Arsenal have now, and if Spurs won the Europa League, basically both of them next season are starting the Champions League. Spurs will sign some players. Will Arsenal win the league next season? I doubt it, bro, because they're going to go and sign Cisco, though. So basically, that is a season that is a write-off. So they regressed, Arsenal. So Spurs had a better season. For Man United, though, because Man United spent a lot of money, maybe I can say if Man United climb the table and finish 9th and win Europa League, and let me give you an example. Let me give you a very good hypothetical. Man United climb the table, finish 10th or 11th, and win Europa League. Comes the summer, Ineos, what is it called? The chest, war chest. And then they back Amram with Eucharist, with 3 more players. Rashford is sold. They sell a couple of players. Amad Diallo coming back from injury. And then Amram. Who did you think had a better season? Arsenal or Man United, though? I know the Arsenal fans enjoyed the wins in the stadium, but at the end, Amram is just because of a fresh start. Amram is a winner. He's going to have Eucharist. He's going to have more players. Who would we be more hopeful for in the future, though? Ask yourself. If you ask yourself this, you would know exactly where I'm coming from.
Look, if Man United win the Europa League and Arsenal win nothing, because that also puts us into the Champions League as well, in terms of achievement, of course it's a better season. There is no doubt. What I would say is, though, I'd rather be as good as them. If that
of
makes
course.
sense. But
yes,
of course. And this is, listen, I wouldn't say right now Arsenal are the only team failing. I would definitely put like City's season so far has been a failure. Man United and Spurs so far this season are definitely failing. But I agree that if Arsenal, listen, I'm going to keep it 100 with Arsenal. I've praised them a lot in the last few years when they've deserved it. I've defended them when I feel that the criticism is sort of duplicitous and they don't do it to other teams. But the last 2 campaigns are purely being judged on the trophies that they win. And I know they've had some bad luck this year. And I do think they've had some bad luck. Stand by it. I can't deny that. In terms of a couple of their red cards, I don't know if you're ever seeing again in Premier League history. They've been unfortunate with some injuries, but they could have the club could have rectified that situation. And most Arsenal fans would agree with it. But when you're a team that's one of the best in the country and you're challenging for titles, your seasons can only be judged on the trophies that you win. And I think most Arsenal fans are aware of. I think most Arsenal fans are aware of that. I think they're on board with that. I think there's a noisy minority that are doing up this whole. I mean, I did hear something Igal said, and I don't imagine that more than 2% of all Arsenal fans agree with Igal. He thinks they're about to dominate English football for years to come, moving forward. For instance, I just don't think that is a typical Arsenal opinion. I think that is an abnormal one, if I'm being honest with you. But it's loud, if that makes sense. Surely.
Can I add something to this for Arsenal fans? I actually released a video on my channel and saying I feel bad for Arsenal after the loss against West Ham. And I still feel bad for the Arsenal fans. I feel so bad for them. If I have a lot of friends that are Arsenal fans, Saad, Martin, Olo, there's tons of them, Igal, Dawood, Souls. The reason why I feel bad for Arsenal fans is that this should have been your fucking year. We should have been City. And it should have been your year. I don't care who let you down. Is it Arteta? Is it the board? Wallahi, it's not banter. Wallahi, I feel bad for that. Bro, well, Terry knows. I do shows with Rory, and there's a Dylan guy that goes home and away. Wallah al-Azim, the kid Dylan looked so broken, bro. He came back from the West Ham game. I'm telling you guys, Dylan, you don't know Dylan. Maybe we can connect. You can get him whatever. He goes home and away, Terry, around the country, home and away. Every time I ask him for shows, he says, I am on the pub with my friends after the games. Win or lose, he's enjoying. West Ham game, I texted him. He said, Mo, I'm home, bro. I'm done. I'm home. I'm gonna hop on the show. And I'm like, I spoke with him before. He's like, bro, I'm done, bro. This is bullshit. I go home and away. He's going to he already booked the train to Holland for the PSV game. He's broken, bro. And he's like, at that time, I so bad. I feel bad. These guys truly believe that this is the year. Man City is not good. We're gonna win the league. We're gonna now catch Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. And they were let down. And that's why I feel bad for them. Do I feel bad for the team itself, for the club? I don't. You spend the money. You have Arteta. You have amazing fan base that go home and away with you. I don't feel bad for the team or Arteta. I don't feel bad. I feel bad only for the fans, to be honest. And by the way, people shouldn't feel bad for the Arsenal team because they haven't done their job. If you ask any Arsenal fan, they'll tell you one thing. The football has been a little bit boring this season. He should have stuck to his guns and tried to play the good football that made him title contender. But we got red cards. Liverpool got a red card. How many XG or something did you have after the red card? You had, I think, against Bournemouth or Brentford?
After against Fulham, we had I think 3.95 XG.
3.9 XG, Terry, after getting a red card, bro. And then Arsenal tell me we cannot win with a red card. Have some shame. They haven't done their job, to be honest.
I hear that. Let's go to some of these super chats here. First one says, Chelsea win the Conference League. I'm celebrating shamelessly with equal Arsenal's competitive trophy haul, I think. Imagine United win the Europa League as well. Peak for Arsenal fans. This was supposed to be their year. Yeah, that would, I will say it, that will hurt Gooners. If Chelsea, I mean, even more so than United, imagine Spurs win the Europa League.
You know, there is a painful scenario for Arsenal fans. Newcastle win Carabao Cup, Liverpool win Premier League and Champions League, Man United or Spurs win Europa, and Chelsea win Conference.
You could add even more into that. No, Villa win the Champions League.
And then City win the FA Cup. Oh my God.
Yeah, it won't happen like that, but yeah, that's worst case scenario, isn't it? Yeah. Mentz, the MC won 3, the year Man City won 3. Okay, this is to hear. It says, in this crap league, Liverpool have 5 points more than City had their last year after 27 games, 6 points more than Man City had in the quad year. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad year at all. I understand the entertainment side of things, though. What are you doing? What is wrong with you?
Big up future Liverpool captain.
My dog is getting mental.
No, this is the dog.
Oh,
this
the dog.
This is Roy.
Just running around the room. I don't think that even Arsenal fans, it's just weirdos on X that farm interactions. Us Gunner fans are so excited when Paul dropped points, is what Tony says here. Arsenal fans are only salty because Liverpool hit them with that Skip Bayless after City fell off. Dinesh says, afternoon, everyone. Forget Klopp's winning the Premier League forgets Klopp winning the Premier League. City would be sitting on 7 Premier Leagues. This is very, very true.
And if referees did their job, City would be sitting only on 5.
Will it ever be Arsenal season? City finally falter and suddenly Arsenal lose to West Ham and my dog is crying.
What's going on with your dog, bro?
No, he wants to get out of the room, but I'm in the middle of working. Rocky, come here. Come here. What's wrong? What's the matter? What are you crying for, baby? Just big dogs, German Shepherds, but they are the biggest babies in the whole world. They really are. Finally falter and Arsenal lose to West Ham and Liverpool become gladiators. Genuine question. Look, it will be one year. This is the problem, though, when you put stock in like next year's our year, next year's our year. It's I understand saying it because sometimes you feel that way, but you never know what's coming for your season. It could be look, Arsenal could have done the right thing in the summer and still got mass injury problems and not won the league. It's one of those things. Where does this come from? What should be the reason for it being bad? Hearing this for the first time. I've seen a lot of it across socials, and I think we've gone through it quite a detailed way. I understand some people feeling like the excitement's gone if they only care about title races. I don't think title races are the only thing about a league campaign that's exciting. Getting into Europe and everything else is massive. The weakest season was 97-98. United bottled a 13-point league. Again, that was a very strongly brilliant teams in England back then, my friend. Brilliant teams. Arsenal got bantered for finishing in the top 4 every year. Now we're getting bantered for finishing in the top 2 every season. I get that we should be winning the league this season, but that is crazy. Listen, the bantering for top 4 thing, I kind of got it initially, but it took on a new form. It took on a new form, in my opinion. And I feel that I remember Man United finishing in the top 4 under Ollie. And I'm like, I'm happy with that. And you get, why? You're a loser. It's not a trophy. That kind of conversation, I feel, was created a little bit of disdain for finishing in European spots, which I find to be crazy because it puts you in a competition that you might be able to win, which is everything Standard FC care about. So celebrating being in the competition that you want to win is now it's kind of strange to me. It's like not celebrating winning a round of a cup tie because you might not win the overall thing. I just can't buy into that nonsense. This year says watching behind. It gets so many views here in South Africa. Obviously talking about AFCON. Of course it does. You guys love your football down in South Africa. I assume SA is South Africa.
Yeah, that's South African rand.
There we go. If these guys can be.
Talking about Joey Barton.
Yeah. They can be because they get.
No, you guys are missing his point. If these guys can be so ignorant in public, ... He's saying, imagine what they're saying in private.
Oh, mate, no, I totally agree.
Yes.
Arsenal fans will become like Liverpool fans saying we are going to win the league next year. We'll wait for 30 years to win the Premier League. I hear that. Gentlemen, look, always a pleasure to sit and speak football. This is going to redirect everybody to MHF to go and check it out now. We're live tonight after all the games finish. I think Liverpool Newcastle kicks off 45 minutes after the rest. I hate when they do that. It really is annoying. But we're live after all the games tonight, so make sure you're all tuning in. I'm going to go sort Rocky out because he's trying to get outside. Boys, thank you. This is going to redirect you to their channels, so go and support the lads now. Thank you to my super chatters. Everybody who's hit the like button, you absolute legends. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.